Let's get started. There we go. Hello everyone, Soul Commodore back at you again, and it's been a minute. Um, I've just been kind of hanging around, getting some stuff done in my own personal life. But I'll talk about that in a minute. But welcome on in. We're here to do some more art. So we're gonna continue on this piece that we've been working on for a while now, and then we'll see what we do next because we still gotta like put paint on this and everything. So all right. Let's see. We're gonna use that. That one as well. I really got to get some new charcoal pencils. These are all running pretty low on me. All right. What's this one? That is not one that I want. Now I just need my blending stumps. Oh, there's my, I need that pencil sharpener. There's my blending stumps. There's two of them at least. And small, tiny one. Good. That should take care of everything that we need. Yeah, I think that's everything we need. All right, let's get started on these two figures over here. Actually, I'm going to do a little bit of erasing first, because there is some charcoal that got smudged on the figure here. So I'm also, excuse the movement of the camera there. I'm just going to move it back a little bit. And then we're going to stop it from shaking as much as we can. There we go. All right. Yeah, I'm just going to use my big white eraser to get rid of some of this charcoal that kind of got smudged over. So we're just cleaning up the background a bit because I want this background to be completely white, completely blank. So we got to get rid of the excess charcoal dust that kind of spread over and ends up getting smudged everywhere, because that's what charcoal does. It's a pretty messy medium. You got to try and keep it in place. There we go. That's better. All right. Now we're going to work on these two figures over here. Charcoal pencil right now. Well, that's not what I wanted to do. That's the last thing I wanted to do. Come on. There we go. We're going to move these up here so that I can get my spare piece of paper without having to worry about dumping them all on the floor. Where did that paper go? So just like we usually do, we're just kind of picking out where the shadows are and then where the highlights are. Pretty rudimentary stuff to kind of start out with. Get to things that are a little bit more complicated in just a bit. Say that this past week has been tumultuous is vastly underselling it for large swaths of people. Um, so I'm hoping that if anybody is tuning in who's distressed about the results of the election in the States, or just kind of hoping for a safe space, just know that my space will always be a safe space for everyone. One who's not hateful, who's not actively trying to take away the rights of people who have every right to exist as anyone else. This will always be a safe space for that. Just before I started streaming, there was a quote from the Boondocks that I saw on Blue Sky that I retweeted, and it's Huey, the main character of the show, Huey, asking his granddad, "What do you do when you can't do nothing, but there's nothing you can do?" And then granddad responds, "You do what you can." And there's not much I can do, being a Canadian citizen, to affect any sort of change for the better in the States, other than offering my time and my voice and my channel, basically, to be that safe space for people, to come and relax and be who they authentically are, without having to worry about retribution for it. That's basically all I can do, unfortunately, but that's what I aim to do, at least. Why I listed my channel as a safe space in the tags, So now we're just moving down to the collar. This may be, this isn't really going to mean much to anyone else, but a bit of good news. And please feel free to share any good news that you have going on in your life in the chat. Some good news for me is I got 3/4 of my mouth fixed now. So, long story short, the reason why I've been kind of on hiatus for the past couple of weeks is because I've had some work done in my mouth. Nothing cosmetic, all medical. I had a bunch of cavities, because one, it turns out I had lost track of time, and I hadn't been to the dentist in like 6 years. I didn't even realize that it had been that long. And then like they were looking at my records, it's like, yeah, it's been a while since you've been here, and I was like, 6 years, dang. Now it's not like I haven't been brushing my teeth and all that in the meantime. I floss every once and again. I'm gonna try and do that a little bit more often. But my family also, we have soft enamel. Um, we've had soft enamel, and usually the ramifications for that don't start hitting until you're like in your 20s and 30s, from what I understand, from what I've been told by the dentist. Um, and those ramifications have started because I had 14 cavities, and so far they have worked on most of them. I think I've got four left down in this part of my mouth, which because of insurance, like I can't get that touched until January because that's when my insurance renews. But yeah, that's where I've been, just kind of recuperating from. And I mean, it wasn't anything invasive. the The first bit of teeth they did was up here, and that was a little. My gums were inflamed for a day, so my mouth was pretty sore. And then the last time they did this quadrant and this quadrant down here at the same time, and that didn't. My gums didn't get inflamed for that at all. So that worked perfectly well for me. So, but it's just a whole bunch of stuff going on like that. And then for those of you who've been here a while, you know that our basement had some water coming in that started in July. Well, the flooring just went in. The new flooring finally went in. So our friends are going to be able to move back in fairly soon, which I'm very excited about. My wife is very excited about them being able to be home again, you know? And the new job, I finally have a little bit of clarity on what it is that I'm doing. So, you know, that's been a positive as well. Um, but yeah, no, I've got soft enamel, and I talked to the dentist about what I can do to maybe strengthen that a bit. So I'm gonna start trying that out. And then um, an interesting thing that because a friend of ours actually works at this dental office, and she let me know about this, and then I brought it up again during my appointment, and the dentist there also confirmed it, that I am of African descent, and apparently people of African descent um, tend to have very, very, very strong rooted teeth. Very, very strong rooted teeth. Like it's strong bone. The teeth, as a result, our teeth tend not to fall out. Um, in generally speaking, our teeth tend not to fall out. The consequence of that is that we're more prone to cavities anyway. And then you add in the soft enamel that we have, that my family has. So it's really no surprise that I had 14 cavities. Um, would they have been taken care of a little bit sooner had I been to the dentist again since before COVID? Yeah, yeah, undoubtedly. But hey, and it's not like I didn't go out of fear of going to the dentist. It's one of those things where literally like just life got busy, and every single time I would think about, oh, I need to go to the dentist, I something else would take over my mind, that was more pressing, and then before you know it, 6 years pass. And my wife, thankfully, you know, cares about my health, and she's like, you need to go to the dentist, and I was like, yeah, you're right. So made an appointment, and now here we are. But the dentist was encouraged because my teeth are in good, like the cavities aside, my teeth are in good shape. Like they're not like rotting or like on the verge of like falling out or anything like that. Like they're in good shape. Just a little heavy on the cavity department. Jacket is a little bit tricky because it's all basically like there are some like pretty dark parts of it, but it's all very much midtones. So I'm basically having to try and invent some places where some like darker tones would be. one of the things that I'm gonna have to start doing now, because I'm getting older and it's important, is now that I've had so many cavities, like now it's really important that I start flossing. So I got to get used to actually doing that. Because I was just like, just about everyone else, where like I would floss like for the week before I go to the dentist, uh, the week I go to the dentist, and then for like a week afterwards, after everything's done. And he's like, "You really gotta floss." And it's like, "Yes, you're right. I need to floss." And I'd go at it for like a week, and then I'd stop. Well, I can't do that this time. Because I'd rather not have this many cavities again. And a lot of the cavities, thankfully, weren't super deep, but they were like in between the teeth, where you know flossing happens. So got to be wary of that. Oh, when it comes to fabric and all this, I do find that I try to, as best as I can, try to follow the pattern of the not the pattern, but the direction of the thread um, in that piece of clothing when I'm trying to draw it in. So, for instance, like the upper back like curves up this way, right? So I try to follow that as much as I can because I find it helps get the general shape of everything. Um, it helps keep it cleaner than the alternative. Just kind of putting the charcoal down wherever, and then hoping that it all works out. Yo, welcome in, Ellis. How are you? Take on me. Strong aha vibes. I like that. I like that. How you doing? Always good to see you. Hope you're doing well. I hope you're feeling well. Doing okay. Let's go with that. Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I was just saying earlier that you know, regardless of what's happened this week, that this spot here will always be a safe space for everyone who isn't a hateful prick, basically. Um, where people are able to be their authentic selves, and you know, with absolutely no judgment, and not like a not tolerance, because tolerance is like, okay, I'm dealing with you. No, acceptance and celebration. You know, that's what kind of bothered me all the time with like zero tolerance policies, because I grew up when I was growing up in Canada. Uh, like Gay people were allowed to get married. That was codified into law, um, and it was a thing where like um, the thing they were preaching was tolerance, like tolerance, tolerance, tolerance when I was growing up, and it was like, yeah, I get it, and I guess it's better than nothing. But tolerance seems to be like, well, when I think of tolerance, I think of like, well, I don't exactly accept it, but I'll put up with it, I'll deal with it. I'll be polite about it. And it's like, no, 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 no. I'm gonna go with acceptance personally. And I'm not gonna lie, growing up in a rural, well, I mean, Chatham was a city, but Chatham itself isn't a fairly rural area. You know, a lot of ignorance in rural areas. So I grew up around a lot of ignorance, and then it took me longer than I think a lot of people who grew up in more um, populated areas and more um, where you interact with more different types of people. But eventually I got to the point where it's like, hey, there's absolutely nothing wrong with being gay or bi or pan or trans or whatever your sexual orientation is, and whatever your gender is, uh, and whether you're trans or not, it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. I think it's much healthier to live your truth and be who you are, and I fully accept and embrace that. Because I did not have to defend my interest in girls when I was growing up, you know, and no one should have to constantly defend who they are and who they're attracted to, you know, as long as it's consenting adults, like who cares? That's because girls have cooties. It's scientific proof. That is true. That is true. They do. They do have cooties. It's so funny how quick that switch happened. I remember I was in grade 6, and it's not like I like hated girls and all that, but there was all the cooties and stuff like in grade 5, and when grade 6 happened, and it was like, oh, actually, girls are actually pretty neat. I like them. Right. Like I said, this coat is very tricky because it's a lot of like I said, a lot of midtones. So there's not a whole lot of like light or dark areas going on. Not a whole lot of variance. So I like I said, I'm having to like invent some sort of variance in it to give it some definition. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a whole lot of anything. This picture, these figures come from a picture that I snapped when I actually went to go visit Jake in the UK. My first trip to the UK. It was my first time on a flight, actually. Now that I think about it, it was my first time ever on a plane, and man, was I freaking out. I was pretty proud of myself because I was in the airport all by myself. I navigated all that by myself. I was, I would have been 20. It was before I met my wife. Um, Gonna lurk while I bind off this knitting project. Hey, no problem, no problem. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for saying hello. It's always good to see you, and enjoy your knitting project. If you have a picture of it or anything, please feel free to share it. But thank you very much for the lurk, and of course, because you're lurking, I always feel like somebody's watching me. Thank you for the lurk, Ellis. Appreciate you. But yeah, it was before I met my wife, so I probably would have been 26, 20, 27. I think it was the summer before I met my wife, so I would have been 27. Yeah. Yeah, I was 27. It was first time on a plane. First time overseas, first time on it. I mean, what a flight to take for your first time. Obviously, there are longer flights, but it's like a 7-hour flight, 8-hour flight, one of the two. 8-hour flight, I think it was, because it was 7 hours coming back because of the jet stream. Yeah. Um, But yeah, it was cool being in the airport. I had no idea that planes were as big as they were. Like uh, planes that make like transatlantic flights or like international flights. I had no idea those planes were that big. It kind of freaked me out a bit. I'm not gonna lie, because I knew the science behind it, but part of me was still like, how in the hell can this thing go up in the air? And how is it gonna keep us all up there? Like what? That don't make no sense. And I'm not a fan of roller coasters at all. At all. Anybody who knows me in real life can attest to that. I am not a roller coaster fan. When I was in grade 7, our year-end trip was to Canada's Wonderland, and I basically held the bags while everyone else got on the coaster. I got on one coaster. I got on Scooby Doo's Coaster Coaster, an old rickety wooden coaster, and I did not enjoy myself at all. So no, roller coasters are not for me. But no one told me that, and I guess I should have figured it myself, but no one told me that when you take off, it feels a lot like a roller coaster, just in the opposite direction. Um, Instead of like falling down, it almost feels like you're falling up. And I was freaking out. Internally, I was freaking out. And then I looked to my left, and the flight attendant was sitting there, all calm and cool and collected, which they're supposed to be calm and cool and collected. But looking at her, I never would have guessed if anything was wrong. Like everything seemed fine because she was just sitting there all cool, and she kind of looked like one of my aunts, which also like kind of relaxed me a little bit. Um, Next thing you know, we were up in the air, and then it got cool because it was nighttime. Like I looked out the window and I saw like some of the lights and all that. I was in like the middle aisle, like the middle seats in the middle aisle. So I could just look out someone else's window, but I could see like the lights of Toronto as they pulled away, and I was like, okay, this is actually kind of cool. And then once we leveled out and we were going, I was like, okay, actually, this is kind of relaxing. Um, Also I didn't think that planes were as loud as they were. I was glad I had headphones. Um, and then I fell asleep and had a little nap, and then we landed. I remembered to grab gum, so I was chewing, and I know the swallowing is what keeps your ears from popping. But I got some gum, so I was chewing away as we landed, and then before you know it, 8 hours later, I was in the UK, and yeah, we were visiting. I think it was somewhere near Buckingham Palace when I snapped this pic. That was my first international flight. Another reason why I was away for a bit is because my dad had a little bit of a medical emergency. He's okay now. Um, Basically, some food got caught in his windpipe. Um, he could still not his windpipe, sorry, his esophagus. Some food got caught in his esophagus, and then it so he he called the ambulance. They took him to the hospital, and he was there for a long time, like 14 hours. Um, and while he was there, he felt the piece of food dislodge and like go down. So he didn't need surgery or anything. They discharged him, and I was able to drive him home because my older brother had to get back home with his family. Um, but yeah, and then the next day he was feeling pretty rough because you're in the hospital for 14 hours. He didn't even get a room. He was just like sat in a room back in a merge. Um, but they treated him well. Um, and yeah, then he got to go home, which he was very happy about. And I was happy about. Next day he was feeling a little rough, but it's okay. I put up his Christmas lights for him. Got him some groceries, some food. Got to see a couple of my relatives because it had been a while since I've been back to China. I got to see my older brother, my sister-in-law, and my nieces and nephews. So that was really nice. And then came home, and the next day he felt good. He felt like tip top again. Felt 100% shape again. So it just took that one day of like kind of getting his body recovering from the trauma. But that was another reason why I was away, because it was like, man, this what an ordeal to go through, to have like, you know, stuff stuck in your throat. I'm very happy that it wasn't his windpipe though. Like it wasn't his like he could still breathe. It was very hard for him to breathe, but he still could get air in. Yeah, it's been an eventful little time for me the last couple of weeks, which is why I've been away. Which I don't like being away for that long, but you know, life takes priority. I have to say though, I do apologize. I should be better at like letting you all know when I'm not going to be streaming and I'm going to be away for a bit. That's my New Year's resolution. We're already, I mean, it's a little late for that, but it's my New Year's resolution. I'm going to be more preemptive in letting you all know what I'm up to, so that you're not left wondering. Oh, also, wait, another thing that was happening was Halloween. That was fun. That was a lot of fun, actually. We got My wife and I greatly underestimated how many kids would be coming to our house. How many kids were in the neighborhood? We did not have nearly enough candy. And we thought we got a good amount, but no. It was not enough. So we know for next year. We know for next year. Yeah. But it was really cool. Like I love handing out candy for Halloween. Like I love it. One of my favorite activities. Just to see all the costumes and like see these kids' faces light up when they get candy, and get to dress up in the things that they like. It's just it's a cool experience. I love it. And this is the first time that I got to hand out candy with my wife, because the place we were living before, the apartment we were living in before, there weren't really any kids in that neighborhood at all. So no one came trick or treating really. So we just kind of like walked around the neighborhood. And also like we lived in the basement, right? We lived in the basement apartment, so like no one was coming to the side of the house to get candy. So and the people upstairs kind of had the run of the front porch and all that. So we're like, well, we're not going to step on their toes. So we'll just walk around the neighborhood to see what decorations and stuff are going on. You know. And then the years before, like I lived in basement apartments. One of the years, my when I was moving from my first apartment to my second apartment, I actually moved on Halloween, which I don't recommend anyone does that because there's a lot of people about. So you have to be extra careful when you're driving. If I can help it, I don't even bother driving like after 6 p.m. on Halloween. If I can help it. And sometimes you can't. Like like you're moving. But yeah, so I couldn't really the last time like I handed out candy was when I was in Chatham, living with my parents, and then when I was in university, I handed out candy as well. In the house that we lived in university, that was a lot of fun. I remember my first year handing out candy in that house, the house that I lived in university. Um, Two of my housemates went to go see Paranormal Activity because it had just premiered. If that gives you any indication of how old I am, um, it had just premiered, and my other housemate was studying for a midterm. So I was left to my own devices. I dressed up as a zombie scarecrow, got myself a bowl of candy, and sat outside on our front lawn and daring the kids to come up and get candy, you know. Then I would jump out and scare some of them, and then some of them got a free pass. That was a lot of fun. There was one kid that I made cry for a very brief amount of time. So basically, the first family comes up, and it's like two families together, right? So about three or four kids between the two families, because there were like four or five adults, um, and one of them I think was their grandmother or something like that. Anyway, so they come up, and the older one kind of gingerly comes up and grabs a piece of candy. I'm like, okay, well, I have to do something for the younger one, and he wasn't that much younger, but I did my little boo, and the kid the kid started crying, and the parents are like reassuring him. I'm reassuring him, and it was funny is that like I had like a zombie face paint on and all that kind of stuff, but once I was using my regular voice, once I was explaining to the kid, it's okay, it's okay. Once he saw that I was a real person, he started laughing. He started laughing because it was a fun experience for him, and yeah, he was reassured that it was okay and all that. Um, and then I kind of worried, oh, I wonder if the parents are going to be a little upset that I did that. You know, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. But then as the kids are walking away, I heard the kid go like, "He scared me, didn't he, Daddy?" And Dad's like, "Yeah, yeah, he did." And then I hear the dad turn to one of the other parents and go like, "Man, that guy was really good. I didn't know if he was real or not." Which I was like, okay, okay, that sort of reinvigorated me. Yeah, so that was a fun night. And then um, the housemates that went to go see the movie came home. One of my friends, she was freaked right out about the movie. And then uh, one of them, I think it was the guy. Yeah, yeah, he invited one of his friends over. Um, and he was like, "Do you guys want to do Century Club?" And I had never heard of Century Club, and I was like, "What is that?" And I don't condone Century Club, but I was 19 years old, feeling like I was invincible. And Century Club is basically you take 100 shots of beer in 100 minutes, which is why it's called Century Club. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I've never done this before, but let's do it to it. Um, and then as the night progressed, I was the only one, because the plan was to drink once everyone got home and all that. So we did, and then I I was the only one. Excuse me. I was the only one to actually finish it to get to 100, and then they had me like chug the rest of my drink, and I was like, yeah, okay. So I did. There's no peer pressure or anything. Like if I had been like, no, 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 I'm not going to, they would have been like, okay, that's fine. Um, you know. And then the guys just started playing NHL. I guess it would have been like NHL '09 that had been out at the time. So they started playing that. The girl had one of her my yeah, she invited over one of her friends, one of her romantic escapades, if you will, at the time. Uh, One of her romantic endeavors. She invited him over. Um, so they were just hanging out. And then I was like, I'm gonna go to bed. And I went to bed. Now, part of the reason I went to bed is because the next morning I had to go watch one of my cousins play football. So that was a very early morning. I think I had to be up at 7 the previous day because I didn't drive. So I had to take the buses all the way to the field, which was all the way on the other end of London. Like way, way on the other side from where I lived. So I was on that bus for a while in an area that I didn't know well at all. So, but yeah, that year was fun art wise because I finally found a professor in my second year that, you know, wasn't all about like every single piece of art that you do has to have meaning. He was more so like, well, do you enjoy what you do? And golden, which I really appreciated because my professor in first year almost made me quit the program. Like I was really having second thoughts about continuing. But that disillusionment didn't really kick in until fourth year. But in second year, I found a professor that really championed the idea of art for art's sake, rather than the highly conceptual. Which there's nothing wrong with conceptual art. There's nothing wrong with having a meaning behind what you're doing. You know, I have a meaning behind a lot of the stuff I do, but sometimes, every once and again, I just paint something just to paint it, or I draw something just to draw it, because I think it's fun, or I want to try something new. You know, and that professor understood that. Which is why to this day he's my favorite university professor that I had. He's an artist by the name of Kim Moody. Kimmoodie. If you want to look him up. I think he's still practicing. I don't know if he still teaches, but I know I'm pretty sure he's still practicing. He used to always tell us that there's two rules we need to live by as artists. One, buy real estate. No, actually that was the second one. But whatever. Uh, One was buy real estate, which we were all like, with what money? And then two was never ever get married to another artist because you both will make each other tear your hair out. Marry an accountant or something. Like, okay. I don't know how true that advice is, but I didn't marry another visual artist. My wife does art in her own way. She's actually going to be learning this weekend how to make a dress because a friend of ours made a dress. And my wife was like, I want to learn how to do that. So our friend's coming over to teach her how. Which I think is really cool. She made her dress out of a bed sheet. So we went to the thrift store, got an old bed sheet, washed it, you know, made sure it was clean and all that. And yeah, just gonna make a dress out of it, which I think is really, really cool. Okay, so now, before I get up to the hair and everything, I'm just gonna throw in some more highlights on this jacket. Just very light highlights. just to kind of suggest different areas where light might be hitting it. Because to be honest, there's not too many areas where that would be happening, but you still have to have a little bit of highlights in there. Just a little bit. All darkness. I mean, you can, but if you want to make something that looks semi-realistic, at least you've got to have some highlights in there. Far be it from me to tell anybody that they can't do something in art. There we go. That adds just a little bit more depth to the jacket. Gives it a little bit more body. Yep. All right, now we'll start blending in the hair. There we go. That looks pretty good to me. All right, so now we just have a smaller figure here. I'm guessing it's this figure's daughter. Sharpen my charcoal pencil real quick. Here. down. Hair is one of the trickiest things to get down, I find. I can still use a lot of improvement with how I do hair. Speaking of, I really need to give myself a haircut soon. My hair is getting unruly. Yeah, I'll do that this weekend. Many things I gotta do this week. It's one of those things where like I feel so bad because I've been meaning to text someone back because I sent them a really well. I sent them a voice message for Thanksgiving, like Canadian Thanksgiving. Um, Canadian Thanksgiving, and they sent a really nice voice message back, and I haven't texted them back yet about it. I've been meaning to. I feel like when I'm when I'm on my deathbed, that's gonna be my biggest regret is just that one person that I didn't get back to as often as I wanted to. That's gonna be my big thing. Like I should have made more effort. Which like people say that I'm good at the effort of like staying in touch with people and all that, but sometimes you just feel like you aren't, or that you could do more to stay in touch. Because my friends mean a lot to me. Deal to me. So I want to make sure that I express it. That's one thing that I will always be thankful for my parents. I mean, I'm thankful for a lot of things, but one thing I'll always be thankful for is my parents never ever shied away from letting us know that they loved us. Which I know a lot of people, rightfully or wrongfully, expect that kind of behavior from a mother, right? Toward her kids. But my dad grew up in a family where they didn't say "I love you" very often, if at all. Like he didn't grow up in that kind of environment, and he resolved that if he ever had kids, they would never have any doubt in their minds that I loved them. You know, that was his thing. You know, and he was true to his word. Still to this day, is true to his word. You know, I'm always thankful for, because it also like being in that environment. It's also like very easy for me to tell people now that I love them. You know. Now with my friends, it's sad to say, but it did take the death of my mom to really kind of bring out my ability to say I love you to my friends. But you know what? They were all along for the ride too. Um, and they readily say it back. You know. We also grew up in that era where like you were considered less of a guy if you expressed love for your male friends. Like God forbid. So stupid. So stupid. You gotta let people know that you love them while they're still here and while you're still here. Nothing guaranteed. My I let the people around me know how I feel about them. Let them know that I love them. I was like, what is this down here? But it's a purse. Sounds like a video game track. Sounds like something you'd find in like Paper Mario. Also, how could I not express my love for my friends? You know, they all stuck with me when I was like writing fanfics for like Paper Mario. Like, you know, like I was trying to like do like a neo noir comic about like a toad that was like a private investigator, or was it Yoshi? I don't know, but all based around like Paper Mario and it's crazy how much that game took over my life. Like the original Paper Mario when it came out. Man, that game was a cultural touchstone for me when I was growing up, especially in like grade 6. But at recess, like I would try to have like everything. This is when I was like 12, 11, 12. Like have people like pretend like they're Paper Mario characters and we're like solving mysteries and stuff at recess. It's like, man, they stuck with me through all of that. It almost sounds like an R&B slow jam. Dig it. Okay. Now we can start blending all this in. Okay, now onto the purse. Very simple shading on that. Start doing the shading on this sweater. Oh. This sweater is also tricky because, again, just like the this coat, there's a lot of mid-tones, not a whole lot of dark or light. But doing the best I can with it. That's all you can do. My eraser here, just to erase some of this away. I accidentally went over that area. Here we go. Have that light up here. out again. Clean that up a bit. Add a few darker marks up here. Kind of drive it home. Now we'll move on to the hair. Which, when you're blending in the hair, again, just like with the clothing, like laying in the charcoal, like I would suggest going along with the grain of the hair, if you will, instead of going across like that to blend it in. Follow the way the hair is laying, and that tends to work out just a little bit better, I find. It also makes it easier because it also allows for some natural highlights and lowlights to come through with the blending stump, because the blending stump doesn't like blend everything in perfectly. There's still some manual work that you have to do. And it makes that a lot easier, I find. Oh. And now we'll just add a few bits of highlight. Closer to where the light actually lays, but also a little bit down here as well, just to give that extra depth. Just okay, there we go. I am gonna just do a little extra shading on the pants down here. Are supposed to be a pair of jeans, and of course jeans already have like a natural stressing in them for like highlights and stuff. You can always throw more charcoal on. Don't be afraid to do that. It can make it harder to like lighten things later on if you need to, but the darkness is important too. Just like so. There we go. All right. So this is our drawing so far. Looking pretty good, I think. I am going to actually call it a stream here because I don't want to get too much into the I don't want to get too into the weeds with actually doing the abstraction right now. Also because I don't have my paints ready. But in the meantime, we'll just keep it here. But yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in. I really do appreciate seeing all of y'all. Um, right now, yeah, I don't really have anyone. So we're not gonna raid. We're just gonna call it a stream. But yeah, thank you everybody for coming in. I'm gonna try and stream on Sunday. We'll see what happens with that. But then next week, with everything being kind of squared away, everything should be back to normal, and the schedule should proceed as normal, starting next Monday, which is actually Remembrance Day here in Canada. Hence the poppy. But yeah, thank you all for tuning in, and check Blue Sky and Twitter to see if I'm going to be streaming on Sunday, and if not, we will see you on Monday, where we will be doing some more of this. We'll actually get to the paint part. All right, take it easy, everyone. Thanks for coming in, and have yourselves as good a rest of the week as you possibly can. All right, take it easy, everybody.